غادي نبداو اولا بمشاهده فيديو يذكرنا باهم لحظات ليوم امس، ومن بعد غادي نشوفوا طبعا الالتزامات اللي كانت من خلال الاجتماعات البارح، ومن بعد نعطيو انطلاقه لاول جلسه حواريه. On va voir tout de suite une vidéo récapitulant tout ce qui s'est passé hier et nous allons revenir pour donner bien sûr des recommandations et lancer le premier panel. كانت هذه إذن أهم لحظات اليوم الأول، واللي كان يوم مثمر جدا في العديد من النقاشات المهمة، واللي من خلالها خرجوا المشاركين بالكثير من التوصيات. Donc nous allons parler tout de suite des axes stratégiques et recommandations après la journée d'hier, on avait parlé en tant que première recommandation de renforcer la gouvernance multiniveau avec l'inclusion des gouvernements locaux dans les contributions nationales, le renforcement des capacités des acteurs locaux, la création des mécanismes de coordination interinstitutionnelle, et puis on avait parlé de l'intégration des solutions locales et globales avec l'adaptation des solutions aux réalités locales, le renforcement des partenaires régionaux et internationaux, et bien sûr la globalisation des bonnes pratiques locales, et puis il faudrait une participation des communautés locales avec une co-conception et co-gestion des projets, et l'intégration des communautés dans cette conception semble être très important. Et puis il y aura un programme de formation, un suivi et évaluation communautaire des projets et un renforcement de la résilience communautaire. طبعا سيتم الحديث عن كل هذا خلال نهاية اليوم الثاني كذلك لما تكون كل التوصيات جاهزة، والسي رفيق طبعا والفريق غادي يتكلموا على هذه الأمور هذو كاملين. Nous allons en parler encore une fois durant la fin de la journée. Et nous commençons ce deuxième jour par la première session. طبعا سنبدأ بأول جلسة نقاشية. On va parler des solutions énergétiques innovantes, innovative energy solutions, integrating green, hydrogen and agrivoltaics for regional resilience. It will be moderated by Mr. Ahmed Adli, General Coordinator at the Arab Network for Environment and Development. Thank you for being here with us. طبعا السيد أحمد عدلي ضيفنا العزيز الذي يحضر كذلك ومنسق الشبكة العربية لأجل البيئة والتطور. شكرا سيد عماد. أترك لكم إذن المنصة لأجل دعوة المتدخلين.
اوكي.
هناك ترجمة مستر عدلي. أذكر هناك you can have translation if you want. You can take the headphones and be aware about everything we say. Thank you.
شكرا السيد المودريتور العام والماستر اوف سيريموني في هذا الاحتفال. شكرا اولا بدايه بشكر المنظمين على دعوتي لهذا اللقاء والشفت انجلش. Thank you very much for inviting me and to be part of this second edition of the forum on the Nexus. And I believe that what we have heard yesterday and what we are going to hear today is enough to help and support the different stakeholders in getting into what we are talking about all the time about sustainability, because without having the Nexus approach, we will never have sustainability in our life. This session is very important, not because I am moderating it, but because the topic is very important. We are going to look at the synergies between the renewable energy solutions. Energy is in the core of everything. We cannot have any kind of security. I'm talking about water security, food security, even ecosystem protection, without having a sustainable energy in all these processes. And with the 7 speakers I have today, very distinguished speakers, we are going to examine how we through the transition, the energy transitions that we have, we can get into this kind of nexus approach and also linking basically, and most of them to food security and sustainable agriculture. The agrivoltaic and the green hydrogen are going to be also priority in our discussions today. The challenge that we have only 1 hour from the promise I got from the organizers that, it's 1 hour from the time we start. So we are getting less. Yesterday it was 1 hour and 15 minutes, but we were very late. We couldn't start on time. So I will ask my speakers to please, this is a real plea, protecting and respecting the last speaker. We cannot take more than 7 minutes per speaker, and we'll try to have it only for 1 round. Only 1 round of question where you can present and also put your recommendations for discussions here and also for the organizers to collect at the end. I have a list of speakers, and I would like to invite them all to come to the podium here. I will start with Mr. Mohammed Makawi, the Deputy Director of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Pole in the Moroccan Agency for Energy Efficiency. Dr. Makawi, please, you have join us here. I also invite Ms. Elena Raduzulabova. Elena is the program officer at the International Renewable Energy Agency Arena. And I also invite Mr. Michael Jacobson, professor of forest resources at Penn State University. Hello, Michael. And then I invite also Mr. Khalid Ben Hamou. He's the director of Sahara Wind. Ahlan, Mr. Khalid. And then Mr. Mohsin Ben Mizian, the head of Cooperation and Communication Technology Intelligence at Edison. And then my dear friend and brother, Dr. Jawad Al-Kharaz, the CEO of the Water Energy Climate Experts Network, WISN. And online, I'm welcoming with us Mr. Vinay Jaju, the Executive Director of Switch On Foundation Environment Conservation Society. Vinay, are you there? Are you online? Okay, we will get him anyway. So in our discussion today, and I will start with Dr. Makawi, I would like to hear from you and also all the audience here, Dr. Makawi, to see how the energy efficiency in Morocco has been able to achieve this overall objective of sustainable agriculture. And of course, the link with the energy topic in this case is very important, and I know that you have a good experience in Morocco about this, and we would like to hear about it. But please don't forget, we have only maximum 7 minutes, including slides. What you have in mind, try to put it in 7 minutes, and this will be the energy efficiency of our time. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Voilà, bonjour tout le monde. J'ai une présentation normalement. Je sais pas. Ah oui, il est là. Voilà, donc, je vais essayer de vous présenter rapidement l'état des lieux de pompage solaire pour l'agriculture au Maroc. C'est une étude que nous avons menée en collaboration avec le PNUD et aussi avec plusieurs départements ministériels concernés, notamment le département de l'agriculture. Donc, Donc, pour commencer, je vais présenter l'AME, c'est l'Agence marocaine pour l'efficacité énergétique. C'est l'ancien centre de développement des énergies renouvelables qui a été créé en 1982 et qui a connu sa première transformation en 2010 pour devenir l'ADRE. Et par la suite, il y a une seconde transformation en 2016 pour devenir l'AME, l'Agence marocaine pour l'efficacité énergétique, qui est régie par la loi 1609. Donc, il a régi par 14 missions, notamment tout ce qui est concevoir et réalisation de programmes et projets dans les différents secteurs, à savoir l'agriculture, l'industrie, le transport et l'éclairage public et aussi l'industrie. Donc voilà, donc, le secteur agricole, donc, il est connu par, il représente 8% de la consommation nationale, la consommation finale nationale. Donc, il connaît une évolution, une croissance annuelle de plus de 6%. Il a aussi un potentiel qui a été identifié lors des États généraux de 13,5%. Donc, c'est l'équivalent de 1,24 million de TEP. C'est un potentiel d'économie d'énergie à travers les mesures d'efficacité énergétique. Il y a aussi la performance donc, des équipements utilisés dans le secteur agricole. Nous avons mené aussi une étude dans l'armée pour caractériser les équipements utilisés. Et donc le pompage, d'une manière générale, qui nous intéresse aujourd'hui, il permet de réduire la consommation et le besoin du secteur agricole de 40%, notamment pour la substituer au butane. Là, c'est un peu voilà, comme j'ai déjà dit, l'agriculture représente 8% de la consommation finale. Il représente aussi 11% de la consommation électrique nationale. Et voilà la répartition de cette consommation. Donc, il y a aussi la consommation au sein du secteur agricole. Elle est d'origine fossile à plus de 50%. Voilà un peu l'historique du pompage solaire au Maroc. Donc, les premières installations ont eu lieu en 1983, mais c'est pour produire l'eau potable et non pas pour l'agriculture. Puis, entre 1983 et 1996, plus de 350 systèmes de pompage. C'était l'UQDR à l'époque qui avait un programme au sein de la région de Souss-Massa. Il y a aussi l'eau solaire, bien sûr, comme vous le savez. Donc, il permet de substituer surtout au butane qui est subventionné au niveau national. Donc, les conclusions de l'étude qui a été réalisée, donc, il a mis en évidence donc, un nombre d'exploitations équipées en solaire photovoltaïque pour le pompage de plus de 30 000 exploitations à fin 2018. Nous avons aussi mis à jour pour 2022 et le nombre était de plus de 60 000 exploitations équipées de photovoltaïque donc pour le pompage. Il y a le prix donc, du gasoil, donc, le prix de revient du mètre cube. Donc, vous pouvez le comparer. Donc, pour le gasoil, c'est 1,67 dirhams. L'électricité, c'est 0 basse tension, 0,98. Le butane, c'est 0,76. Et pour le pompage, c'est 0,44. Donc, c'est la solution ou l'énergie, donc avec un coût minime en termes de production de mètres cubes d'eau. Donc, l'étude du CIA a mis en évidence que 76% des installations ont été financées par fonds propres, donc et 10% seulement ont fait appel à un crédit bancaire pour financer les installations. La puissance moyenne installée était de 2 kW par hectare. Il y a aussi un constat en termes de maintenance. Donc, l'étude a mis en évidence que la distance moyenne par rapport aux techniciens de maintenance était de 90 km. Donc, il y a aussi un manque qui a été mis en évidence en termes de maintenance des installations. 50% donc, du montant d'investissement se situe entre 100 000 et 300 000. Donc, la puissance moyenne par exploitation était de 18,5 kW. Donc, il y a aussi un marché, en parallèle, un marché de panneaux photovoltaïques d'occasion. Voilà le tableau, j'ai déjà parlé. Donc, quelques mesures incitatives. Donc, au Maroc, donc, il y a la réduction du taux de TVA pour les panneaux photovoltaïques et aussi le rentrant pour la fabrication. Il y a aussi la réduction des droits de douane, donc au minimum à 2,5%. Aussi les droits de douane pour les entrants, donc qui a été baissé de 30 à 2,5%. Et pour les onduleurs, il y a aussi la réduction de 17,5% des droits de douane à 2,5%. Il y a une convention qui a été signée récemment donc, par le ministère de l'Agriculture et le ministère des Finances pour soutenir justement le pompage, donc avec des conditions justement pour substituer le gaz butane comme source d'énergie. Donc il est aussi conditionné cette subvention par l'existence d'un système d'irrigation localisé, c'est-à-dire pour optimiser aussi la consommation de l'eau. Et voilà, donc cette convention prévoit donc une subvention de 30% de coût d'acquisition d'installation avec une subvention plafonnée à 3 000 dirhams par hectare aux 30 000 dirhams par projet. La superficie globale visée par le projet est 51 000 hectares. Je vous remercie et je reste à votre disposition.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Shukran jazilan. You made it on time, 7 minutes. And you give us also an example, and you are emphasizing on that the investment in the energy efficiency and renewables definitely is a wise decision and profitable at the end. Now I go to Vinay. Vinay, are you online or you are not ready yet? Vinay? Huh? معانا على Otherwise, I go to Elena. How are you today?
Am I audible?
Elena is coming. Okay, it's good. But are you okay today, Elena? Vinay, you are ready? Hello, we hear you.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. Let me first of all welcome you, and sorry for yesterday. We kept you until midnight in India, and we couldn't make it. But you are ready now and fresh and ready for the introduction or intervention. We know the challenge of the interlink between the nexus and the agrivoltaic and the green hydrogen and the renewables in general. But we would like to see your experience from the situation in India. And we heard from Morocco, here in North Africa, in the Mediterranean, and we go far to the east in Asia. And we would like to hear from you the situation in India, your experience, and also how this, your experience was able to minimize the unintended environmental and economic impacts that could happen due to the energy transition. Vinay, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so sorry I can't be there in person, but it's a real honor to be in the midst of everyone. Namaste for everyone. I'm Vinay from India, and you see the beautiful country and the state I come from in West Bengal, Kolkata of India. What we have seen, sort of giving a little bit of a background of where I am coming from. In India, we've seen a lot of interest in renewable energy, energy security, primarily because we are a large importer of oil and also started to import a lot of coal. And we're it's a growing, developing country, so there's need for a lot of more and more food. There's requirement for more resources. It's a growing population. It's the most populous country in the world with a very high number of young people, which is obviously also putting more pressure to the climate. But what we see largely is the large amount of water requirement, being a very hungry country for energy, and also the food security, and all of this is very closely linked, as we all know. Some sort of, to set the context of where I'm from in India perspective, India today currently extracts more than 25% of global groundwater. So that's something to be quite mindful of as India keeps developing. We're obviously also a very large population, but still. And also what is very interesting is a large part of the global groundwater actually goes into agriculture. More than 90% goes into agriculture itself. What we're also seeing, the soil, because of the chemical farming that is largely practiced across India now, 30% of India's land is degraded, and there's a lot of salt that is affecting the soil, and in coming days it looks like we'll have about 50% of all of that land is threatened because of this phenomena. And at the same time, there's a huge power demand growing at 6% annually. I'm not sure how many countries can talk about this, and also in terms of sheer volume, it's very large. And I don't need to talk about the vicious cycle of energy, water, agriculture. It's very prominent. More energy is used, more carbon dioxide is used. The way we use our land also has a GHG emission. And obviously there is, in the country like India, which is largely growing, we still see a large part which is heavily dependent on uh, many factors which are currently threatened by climate. Uh, while we have that vicious cycle of energy, water, and agriculture, what we've also built is a network ecosystem at the organization I'm from, Switch On Foundation, where we work with multiple stakeholders to make sure there's technology, finance, scheme from governments get to the hands of the local people, and multiple technologies from solar to biomass, multiple such technologies are then available to them. The government of India has multiple schemes related to renewable energy, and I mean, India by far, many of you would know, is now one of the most leading installers and promoters of renewable energy. In just a decade, we had over 300% increase in just a decade. So that's phenomenal. And these graphs obviously talk in that direction. I don't want to talk about the schemes that the government of India promotes, but I'll straight come to agrivoltaics. As for green hydrogen, it's still, we don't see anything at commercial stage, but India has a green hydrogen mission already put in place. And most of the green hydrogen is being talked about only in the industrial sector. In India, as of now, we don't talk about green hydrogen very much in the areas of agriculture. But agrivoltaics is, of course, something that is very heavily being thought of in India. The very little work has happened, to be honest, but there are studies done that about 100 gigawatts of agrivoltaics systems can be set up. Again, the benefits of agrivoltaics, all of you know, and there are other experts who can talk about this. I want to specifically take another couple of minutes to talk about what are potential environmental and social impacts that we should be mindful of. Especially a country like India, which is growing, developing. A lot of people are still coming out of poverty. A lot of people have been brought out of poverty. But we have to be mindful about how we do the development. So when we talk about agrivoltaics, we have to be very, very careful that we don't get into this whole food versus energy challenge. So we don't want to promote the use of growing energy, and we are then we still have a lot of people to feed in India. So we don't, for food security reasons, we have to be very mindful when we promote any use of land for energy. So that's the context we have to start thinking about. There are multiple other things which we don't have answers to, at least in the Indian setting. There are multiple people working here. We've been very closely associated with many of them, like GIZ, etc., who bring the global knowledge into India. But still, every country, every region within every country is very, very unique with multiple agroclimatic zones. So what would, I think, as we promote this in India or any country for that matter, we have to be very, very mindful. What does agrivoltaic system do to the soil health? Of course, we know the temperatures would get affected. The moisture under the agrivoltaic, where these small trees, field crops are going to get grown. Also, water use will definitely change, because these the panels itself, these photovoltaic panels would need water for itself. What would it also mean in terms of the biodiversity, the wildlife, the local biodiversity? How does that change? And that, of course, we will only know over a period of time. So there's a lot of data that still needs to get collected, especially from an agriculture side, particularly keeping our smallholder farmers in mind. India is still very much 90% of India is still smallholder farmers with very less than a hectare of land, especially in areas that I come from. About 99% of people in Bengal, the state where I am coming from and I'm talking from, are smallholder farmers. That brings me to the other problem of, when we talk about smallholder farmers, we have to be very, very careful about how their land, if it is getting used up for energy, what would it do to job displacement? Are we going to lose jobs, or is it going to create more jobs? We don't know yet. Because if we start promoting agrivoltaics with the ownership with large investors and large developers, then obviously small farmers will go out of the picture. So it's very, very careful that we have a nice mix where even small farmers in cooperatives, in collectives, can come together and own these systems. So we're making sure jobs remain, more jobs are created, even better. If that happens, then obviously we will see community resistance, and if there is community resistance, obviously none of these are going to scale at beyond a point. So some of the things that we need to think about is, of course, how does economic income disparities happen with more of these systems that start happening? How do we take more farmers with us? Also about land access, if we start having large developers come and take up land of small farmers and start growing this, and farmers would do this for small gains, but in the long term this can be very, very disastrous. So
the time, please.
that was my last slide and last point. Thank you very much. I probably gone over. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If we have given you the time based on the population of India, you would have taken the whole time of the session, but it's impossible, of course. But definitely having a successful story in India, this means that we can have it successful in any region. And thank you very much for being with us, and please stay there. Maybe we have time for some discussion if we are lucky. Now I go to Mrs. Elena Radoslavova. She is the Program Officer and the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. And I know she's going to give us a comprehensive or overall idea about how IRENA is taking this nexus approach and the issue linking it to sustainable agriculture, food security, and water security, and so on, with some examples that we could also have as success stories. Elena, you have the floor. 7 minutes again.
Good morning, everyone. Do I have my slides already? Just a second. Here we go. So thanks very much for having us today, and I would like to let you know more about IRENA and what we are doing in terms of bringing closer the renewable energy and agriculture. For those who are not aware much about the agency, it's the leading global intergovernmental agency which is dedicated to driving the energy transition. Let me see, it works. Yeah. Our mandate is to accelerate the adoption of sustainable use of energy worldwide and also advancing sustainable development. When the agency was established 15 years ago, the cost of the solar energy was 10 times higher than what we have today. And the energy optimists at that time were not so many. Now with the dramatic drop of the cost of renewable energy overall and solar in more particularly, we have already the business case, and we see also that uptake of renewable energy worldwide. Our membership is 170 countries at the moment. And our mandate as an intergovernmental agency is to serve as a principal platform for collaboration. We are supporting the countries in their energy transition. You can see part of our extensive knowledge database where we provide policy recommendations, we analyze business models, and we help them form their renewable energy strategies. But we all know that public resources are oftentimes very limited, and according to our calculations, around 75 to 80% of the energy investments are actually coming from the private sector. Therefore, it's very important for the agency to bring all these unique viewpoints. And 10 years ago, we established the Coalition for Action, which comprise private stakeholders, industry associations. We have think tanks, universities, civil society, startups. So basically, the goal was to bring all these diverse viewpoints to form and discuss energy transition more broadly. We have several working groups. Our membership is also quite broad. We have around 170 members, as I said, coming from the diverse backgrounds. One of our working groups is specifically dedicated to empowering people and communities and focuses on the socio-economic and environmental benefits. And this is something that I want to highlight, and I think also the previous speaker spoke about that. Renewable energy and especially these agrivoltaic projects sometimes do not come with big numbers, but they definitely are supporting and they have multiple benefits related to enhanced well-being, nature conservation, and therefore our group is seeking for solutions to promote local value creation, quality employment, and community ownership. We collected, one of our tasks was to collect best practices for agro-renewables and therefore look into the different benefits and provide policy recommendations for decision makers. But just as a background, by 2050, the world is going to be a home of more than 9.7 billion people, and the global food and energy demand would rise by 50%, and the energy consumption, according to different calculations, would raise between 25 and 50%. It's only for 20 years that we need to catch up with all this scarcity of resources. And where is the role of agri-food system in this big picture? The system is already consuming 30% of the global energy and contribute to 30% of the greenhouse gas emissions. The agri-food systems consume 70% of the freshwater resources, and they're using 38% of the global landscape. As we look ahead, the intersection of food, water, and energy would be very critical, as strengthening resilience and reducing the emission in the sector is necessary for the global climate response. Adaptation, on one hand, to climate change will be a necessary component to the efforts to eradicate poverty and hunger, but also we need to apply mitigation measures within the agriculture sector to make sure that we are limiting the global temperature rise and we are avoiding more severe climate impact. And what we did, as I said, we worked on different case studies with the agency. We collected around 8-9 different projects, and unfortunately, because our moderator is very tough, I won't be able to let you know more about those. But just as a few highlights, so we have a fishery project in China, we had a water irrigation project in Iran, we had agrivoltaics in Japan, women cooperative in Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, and a few programs that we've been monitoring across Greece, Spain, Italy, North America, and Australia. So as I said, I won't be able to let you know more about these projects, but I want to highlight that these initiatives present the intersection and the positive benefits between bringing the water, food, energy nexus closer. And they're enhancing the rural livelihood, productivity, and sustainability, and integrating the solar solution and the solar power into the farming and fishery and agriculture actually helps to bring plenty of benefits for the rural communities. Maybe just like a small highlight. One of the projects I'm particularly proud of is the women cooperative in Malawi, and just before the session we spoke with our moderator that women, even though being represented with more than 50% in the agricultural sector, are not so vocal when it comes to decision-making process. And this project actually shows that they have a say, they can run their own business. And for this particular cooperative, the income from the renewable energy is actually already their primary source of revenue. And maybe just a few words about Japan. This solar power project that was, this agrivoltaic project that was started there, it was started more than 10 years ago, and it was one of the first projects in the country. And there was a lot of reluctance from the local administration to give this farmer permission. But he was very stubborn. He was like chasing them, and finally he got not only the permission to produce electricity with solar power plants, but he also managed to secure a quite generous feed-in tariff contract, and he's still benefiting from that. So from these projects, we also can see different business models and financing options. In China, for example, the project is owned by energy company and not the farmers. And in Iran and in Japan, we have a combination of self-contribution and feed-in tariff. In Malawi, as I mentioned, it's a grant, same in Tanzania. So some of the countries are able to provide small grants for the farmers, but as I said, public funds are usually limited. We had the public-private partnership and lease-to-own model in Uganda, and different investments when it comes to like more developed countries where this investments is done by the companies as part of their demonstration and innovative strategies. So just a few benefits that I would like to mention here. So how am I doing for the time? Quite well. Okay, so I don't need to rush so much then. So a few benefits that I wanted to highlight. On one hand, the climate change mitigation and reduced emissions in agriculture, adaptation and increased resilience. So in many of the cases, we saw that the projects were facing, before the installation of the solar power plants, they were facing constant interruptions in the energy supply. Some of the projects didn't even have energy access. So for them, it was the first time that actually they had electricity to store their production, to cool it, and to transport it. We see benefits in terms of environmental protection and resource efficiency. So dual use of land, agriculture, and renewables is supporting the increased yield. In some of the case studies that we've been zooming into, we saw that shading actually provided by the solar power panels increased the productivity, and the sheep were giving more milk in Uganda, and the fish was feeling much better in China. So this is multiple benefits that are also coming when those panels are well designed and are protecting the crops. So for many of the projects, it's additional income generation for the local economies, and also increasing the food security, decreasing the food waste, which is very important. In one of the projects, the food waste was reaching 50%, and after the installation of the cooling system, they already managed to preserve their production. Energy security is a also very important aspect of the benefits that these projects are providing, and the cost saving, of course. And at the end of the day, we are reaching with one-shot multiple benefits and sustainable development goals that are set by United Nations with zero hunger, clean and affordable energy, and climate action. And I would like to finish with the policy recommendations. You can read them on the screen because my time is up, and I can also address this later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elena. I think what you have presented, the knowledge is very important. If we don't really build on the knowledge that was already created, we are going to start from scratch, and we don't want to have this. And also the South-South cooperation in this case would be very beneficial for everyone here, especially when it comes to countries in Africa and in Asia. Now to Dr. Michael Jacobson, the professor at the Forest Resources at Penn State University. He's going to give us some solutions, some ideas about energy solutions using the WEFI Nexus approach.
Shukran. Salam alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the organizers for inviting me. Again, I'm at Penn State. I'm also an affiliate at University Mohammed VI Polytechnic in Ben Gueria, so it's good to be in Morocco. Just waiting for my slides. That's my email if you'd like to reach out to me. I'm going to talk in sort of a few main concepts. One is a sort of a case study on agrivoltaics, and then I'll get into why we need to move beyond green hydrogen and agrivoltaics if we're going to get to meeting our carbon climate goals by 2050. So let me just move the slides. Okay. I work on the Water Energy Food Nexus, among other things, and this is a project funded by the National Science Foundation. There's the website. It's connecting US, EU, and African researchers, especially early career researchers, to connect, network building for people working on this. So I encourage you to look at it. We have websites, webinars, and a lot of collaborative learning schools bringing early career researchers from these 3 continents together. So when you think about these 2 technologies, you've got to think about the land optimization because they're trade-offs in land use. Both of these technologies require land. So what are you giving up to provide this? The costs are very critical, obviously initial capital costs and then maintenance. And then when you're talking about green hydrogen, you need to think about the investment in infrastructure especially. So from the agrivoltaic perspective, this schematic I like because it just basically shows where you can better optimize the land. And also, I don't know how many of you in the room know, but there's also geologic hydrogen, which has become a big fad these days. A lot of researchers, it comes from the mafic rocks below the surface, and they can release the hydrogen from the rocks, and they say it could be 2 times the natural gas reserves of the world. So obviously, it's another technology that we have to think about. So the case study quickly I'd like to talk about is my colleagues at United Nations University in Bonn. They work in Mali and West Africa. This is a kind of a unique agrivoltaic system where they're actually capturing rainwater. So you can see that it has multiple benefits, not just growing crops. Obviously, the key with this is what type of crops you can grow under the solar panels because you need ones that require less light. But then obviously in these very dry areas, if you can capture rainfall in the rainy season, as that diagram on the right shows, you get these other benefits. Now there are obviously challenges with this, and the first one is the culture. These people aren't used to these modern technologies, so to speak, and so how do you get them to accept them and continue to use them? If you just give them the handout and the infrastructure, will they actually use it? And then the larger picture in the country and the region is the public acceptance of these technologies. Financing is obviously critical. There's a session later on this. And I'm talking about the small scale, right? And then when you bring these technologies in, if you don't have the maintenance, so the idea is to think about local materials and sourcing them locally so they can be repaired and things like that. So that relates to actually getting these technologies on the ground. And then lastly, the policy regulatory aspects. What other co-benefits can there be? Can these small farmers benefit not only from the power and the cropping systems and perhaps the water harvesting, but also maybe the power from the solar panels goes into the system. Not working? Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'll just switch to, so these challenges are opportunities. So I'm going to switch to why we actually need negative emissions, right? So these technologies are about reducing our carbon, right, using renewable energy. But as we look over time, we used to use a lot of wood, which was high in carbon, then we transitioned to coal, then to oil, natural gas, and now we're talking about green hydrogen, which is pure hydrogen, so it has no carbon. But if we're going to really get to meeting our carbon goals by 2050 or 2100, we need negative emissions, right? You can look at the schematic, and we need to go below zero. How can we do that? Well, these technologies can contribute, but when you think about like electric vehicles, you know, to get the battery charged up, you still need these fossil fuels. So we haven't gotten to negative emissions. And so I argue as a forest economist is that we need to look at some of these carbon capture technologies and bioeconomy, bio-based systems. So natural climate solutions, growing biomass and storing it, is a way to get negative emissions. And here's a list of natural climate, obviously from forest, grasslands. Biochar is a very good one because you can grow the biomass and then store it for hundreds of years. And so it's really a negative emission. And then also, you know, when you think about these natural solutions, you've got to think about what's in the soil. Soil holds most of the carbon, and so if we really want to deal with addressing climate change, we need to deal with not releasing carbon stocks. So even in the deserts, in Morocco, there's a lot of carbon in the soils. So my last slide is just that we've got to think about all these technologies, but also think about the role of photosynthesis, growing plants, building a bioeconomy for energy solutions, doing it sustainably, and then being able to capture this carbon so we can get to negative emissions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Exactly 7 minutes. I like very much when you talk about the negative emissions and how we can approach it, and also the nature of these solutions that we are using in dealing with this kind of energy transition. Now I'm very happy to give the floor to Dr. Khaled Ben Hammo, the director of Sahara Wind. Dr. Khaled, you are supposed to tell us how you envision the role of green hydrogen in fostering this energy resilience. Everyone is talking about green hydrogen, but we want to know how it could happen. Please, you have the floor. And 7 minutes.
Absolutely. I try to match the record outstanding timing of my predecessor. So I'm happy to present innovating green energy solutions. Basically, Sahara Wind has been in business for the last 30 years, focused on developing Africa's largest wind energy potential. So my session will be focused on wind and green hydrogen and the energy transition. We build capacities in wind energy. I installed Morocco's first wind turbine in 1995 on the Sahara coastline near Dakhla, built capacity with terms of reference on the HVDC line in 2005 with ONE and multilateral institutions, and introduced green hydrogen in 2006 with funding from NATO, building Africa's first wind electrolyzers at Al Akhawain University and the University of Nouakchott. And we also conducted storage of green hydrogen in deep salt domes in Essaouira. So the concept basically, you can see here the milestones that I've just described. Basically with funding from NATO, it was the first science and technology deliverable of the bilateral USA-Morocco agreement. And as you can see, the first 30 kilowatt wind electrolyzer system that was commissioned in 2012 at Al Akhawain University has enabled to build capacity and train essential knowledge on these new technologies, combining them with telecom operators with whom we did the regional wind measurement campaign in both Morocco and Mauritania to assess the massive scale of the trade winds. And when we talk about massive scale, indeed, the trade winds are in fact at the origin of 70% of the world phosphate reserves that you find actually near Khouribga, Ben Grir, and Yusufia. And the mechanism is very simple. You have those circular currents due to solar radiation on the planet and its rotation, and it gives you surface winds, circular on the Atlantic, and the paleontological map of the planet 50 million years ago shows you that there was a shallow area between two large bodies of water, and this concentrated huge amounts of plankton, which attracted a very rich biotope. And the decay of this biotope resulted today in close to 70% of the world phosphate reserves, phosphate rock reserves, essential for global food security. And You can see here the deposits in the yellow triangle, the North Atlantic trade winds, and the size of the area that we're talking about, the coastline of the Sahara. We're talking about the potential of 6,000 gigawatt onshore. You can double that potential going offshore, but just 6,000 gigawatt compared to Europe's entire installed capacity of 1,000 gigawatt. That means you have 6 times all the electricity installed in Europe that can be generated on the Sahara coastline at record low cost, because the load factor exceeds in some conditions 70%. So this is outstanding. And you also have iron ore deposits. So those are very exciting deposits, both phosphate to decarbonize the fertilizer sector and the steel, which are respectively responsible for, in the fertilizer sector, probably 3-4% of the world carbon emissions. And for the steel, we're talking about close to 9% of global emissions. So to decarbonize these industries, you need massive amounts of green hydrogen. And as you can see, you have also desalination applications, which will enable indeed to fix carbon in the region. The main challenge is to provide this load to the this resource to the load centers in the region, and that's why we have envisioned the HVDC line from 5 to 10 gigawatt, bringing power to the load centers in North Morocco and enabling exchange with Europe, which will be complemented by hydrogen pipelines in the future. Obviously, this is the world's largest phosphate fertilizer hub by Georges Lasfar. You have all the components of decarbonizing them. Ammonia storage, a steel plant, and also MENA's largest coal-fired power plant, which could provide source of carbon for synthetic fuels. This is the architecture of a 5 to 10 gigawatt HVDC transmission line from the Sahara coastline to Tangier, enabling dispatching to both Europe and North Africa. These are the underground deep salt domes by Essaouira, which enable seasonal storage of green hydrogen in the foreseen pipelines, which means that you can supply green hydrogen to the markets on demand. And as you can see, the largest potential on the green hydrogen offer of Morocco is in gray, and you have the pipelines, the GME, which will be extended to the region, as well as an upcoming Nigeria-Morocco pipeline with hydrogen storage. In parallel, there are corridors that are foreseen to provide the shipping of green hydrogen, and this will enable tremendous development opportunities with an industrial base to be built to address critical nexus, where we're talking about fertilizer, talking about agriculture. Desalination will have a session dedicated on that with wind energy this afternoon. And I look forward to your questions. And I'm actually ahead of schedule, as I can see. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You know, you are giving me a hope that, you know, miracles could happen. And so, yes, we are doing it. Now, we go to the one before the last speaker, Dr. Mohsen Ben Mizian, the Head of Cooperation and Communication Technology Intelligence at RSN. Dr. Mohsen is going to tell us how research and development, you know, we heard about the knowledge. Of course, there's no knowledge without research and development. And we'll give some examples of how the research and development was important in achieving these success stories. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Adli, for this introduction. And indeed, my presentation is entitled The Power of Innovation. I'll go through how it helped humanity shaping the way we live actually now. So, you know, through history, innovation has been a key player, a key catalyst of every single major revolution in human being. It transformed challenges into opportunities, transforming the way we live, the way we interact with our planet. Agricultural revolution made us thrive through mastering the land. Industrial revolution harnessed the power of steam, the power of electricity to generate mass production and economic growth. And lately, the digital revolution made us possible to connect with people and build bridges. And as this slide shows from the virtual capitalist, we are at the 6th wave based on artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robots, automation in general, but it's not the topic of today, but also clean technology. And I believe personally that climate change, unlike other revolution, is a revolution about not only advancement, but about survival, about resilience. And again, I believe that research and innovation will play a key role here in addressing those challenges. So to come back to the topic of today, green hydrogen and agrivoltaics, let's envision a world where deserts are solar powered, they produce electricity and green hydrogen. Envision a world where farms generate not only food, but also electricity. Even though this image was generated by artificial intelligence, I like to believe that it's an achievable goal, and us at research centers like IRESEN like to believe in this kind of dreams, of bold dreams. So that's bringing me back to talk about what we do out at IRESEN, which is the Research Institute for Solar Energy and New Energies in Morocco. Basically, we've been created in 2011 to support the national energy strategy through applied research and innovation with two main missions: the development of a network of research infrastructures dedicated for a lot of thematics regarding green technologies, but also act as a founding agency supporting transformative research projects. And we've started this since 2015 by building the Green Energy Park, which is now one of the biggest research centers in Africa, dealing with the solar technology, CSP, so concentrated solar power, but also photovoltaics. And we've continued this momentum with building the second research platform on sustainable air construction, smart grids, and energy efficiency. And we're continuing this trend and supporting our national strategy for green hydrogen by building a third platform which will be dedicated for green hydrogen and power-to-X technologies, which will be in Jorflasfar, as our colleague Khalid mentioned in his presentation. It's with our friends at OCP and UM6P also, and we started already with some pilot projects. The GAP, the Green Ammonia Pilot Project, which is now almost ready, with 4 megawatt electrolyzers producing 4 tons of green ammonia. And we will be following that with a power-to-liquid project producing e-fuels through clean technology and green hydrogen. And our second mission is to support, as I said, innovation and transformative projects through our funding agency. And for that, we have a lot of programs, applied research for innovation, some bilateral also programs with our friends at Spain and French, but also some multilateral programs through international cooperation like Mission Innovation. And through this, we managed to finance those are some numbers of KPIs that we've been able to achieve through our funding agency, and we've been able to finance almost 70 research projects. And I bring here just four examples regarding our Wi-Fi Nexus. So we have smart agrivoltaics greenhouses for optimized water, soil, and energy use, agriculture 2.0 for precision agriculture with photovoltaic pumps, Aqua Solar, which is a really exciting technology, working with two technologies of desalination and with two technologies of solar, PV, and CSP. And to go back to our subject for this session, green hydrogen and agrivoltaics. I believe the development of green hydrogen as it's envisioned for the world, especially for Morocco, regarding its opportunities. It's kind of seem paradoxal that we're focusing on a technology that is requiring a lot of water in an arid region. But as researchers, we like to see the glass half full, and we believe that the scaling up of green hydrogen technologies, we bring also scaling up of desalination technologies, bringing costs down and making available water for drinking and irrigation. Same thing for ammonia. We have the luck of having OCP, which is the biggest industry here in Morocco, that have also a bold plan in producing their own ammonia, green ammonia, to use in their fertilizing industry. And yeah, even though we are optimistic, we are also realistic. We know that these developments need a lot of challenges to be addressed. And here to quote our Minister of Energy Transition and Sustainable Development, green hydrogen needs to be cost competitive for it to be sustainable and implemented at a larger scale. We need to see a lot of infrastructure development for transporting and storing hydrogen. And again, we will rely on a lot of continuous innovation and R&D to make it possible. So it's up to us. We believe that this green energy revolution that we are at the grasp of is something that we can address, but only through research and development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know the challenge is really tough, and for the organizers, you know, you give a hard time for the people who are giving you the life, energy, you know. Without energy, you cannot make any progress. And now we are giving, you know, the very small part of the energy of this forum for the energy people. Now, last but not least, my friend, Dr. Jawad Kharraz, the CEO of the Water Energy Climate Experts Network, WISAN. Dr. Jawad is going to tell us also about how the Nexus approach, especially when we talk about power to X, like desalination, and we can hear also about the green ammonia in sustainable agriculture, but maybe with a different flavor from what Dr. Mohsen said. So this not the same green ammonia, it's another. Okay, please, Jawad.
The last one. All right. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. First of all, many thanks for the organizer, the region of Tanger-Tetouan-Al for inviting me to this very, very interesting event, and also to a topic that is very, very close to my heart, because I started promoting the Nexus approach since 2013, 2014, when I was working at that time in France at the Euro-Mediterranean Water Information System. So we have been working closely with the ministries of water in the Mediterranean. So at that time, obviously, we were still struggling with what is the Nexus exactly, how can we implement it, etc. So obviously, since then, we had so many regional conferences, workshops, etc., talking about the Nexus approach, how can we improve the coordination between the actors in the energy sector, in the water sector, in the agriculture sector, and obviously the environmental sector as well, etc. But fortunately, in the last years, we started having concrete project, tangible project, deployed in the different areas of the Mediterranean, if we give the example of the Mediterranean. I will not go into the slide. I will just, almost everything has been said, but I can say that we're talking about agrivoltaic and green hydrogen. Two a very good example of the Nexus, and two also very good example of solutions that could be driven by energy players. Because in general, we had the occasion to see many Nexus initiatives, but driven by water players or water stakeholders. So for the first time, so we are having, I think, one of the rare sessions where I see almost all the panelists are coming from the energy sector. So that's really interesting and also good, because we need to involve more and more energy stakeholders in this Nexus approach. How can we develop solutions that could lead also to a change in the policies to take into account this Nexus? So in terms of agrivoltaic, so in terms of technology readiness level, it's quite mature technology, and we have so many companies working on that solution in the Mediterranean, from Greece, from Italy, from Spain, and from also Morocco, Egypt, etc. And as already mentioned, so it has many advantages. So we are talking about a nexus of agriculture and energy. So we are using the same land, so we can add the land nexus. So we are doing an optimization of the land, and we are producing food with renewable energy without compromising the land, without compromising the profit of the farmers. So some panelists mentioned, obviously, the social acceptance. We need to do some work in terms of the public acceptance. So how can the farmers, get more encouraged to adopt such solutions. We need also how can we upscale agrivoltaic solutions. So we go from megawatt project to gigawatt project hopefully in the future. So obviously there is a huge opportunity for agrivoltaic in our region, in Morocco, in the framework of the new green generation 2020-2030. I think there is a space for agrivoltaic solutions definitely in our country. Then when we talk about green hydrogen, so some people say it's a hype, some people are much more encouraged to go in this line, but I think Morocco has done the right steps in terms of preparing the conditions for this green hydrogen economy, because now all the countries in the region are committed to net zero by 2050, committed to decarbonizing all the sectors. We have the CBAM, the EU carbon adjustment mechanism very soon, that will enter into in vigor next year, so we need to be ready. So that means that we need to decarbonize all our economic sectors. And green hydrogen definitely is called to play an important role in decarbonizing different kind of economic sectors, in particular what we call hard-to-abate industries like steel, cement, and petrochemical industries. So green hydrogen and derivative could play an important role here. In particular, in Morocco, we have this advantage of being able probably to start with one of the most promising application, which is the green ammonia. So you know that OCP put last year, or announced $13 billion of investment to start producing 1 million ton of green ammonia by 2027. And you know green ammonia provides nitrogen and is an input for the fertilizer industry. So that means that we will definitely impact the food security, not only in Morocco, probably in Africa and beyond. So this is a new nexus, so of energy or hydrogen and food, and obviously water. A lot of people are asking how can we afford to produce green hydrogen or green ammonia while we are in a water scarcity situation. But obviously, we are very lucky. We have a long coast in the Atlantic side, the Mediterranean side, and we can use desalination. Desalination probably we will talk about more in detail in session 8 later this afternoon. Desalination become very much a technology, and the costs are very competitive now, especially when we use economic scale. So we are reaching, as announced in Casablanca plant, 4.5 dirhams per cubic meter. So this is very competitive. And even the price of the desalinated water is contributing only by, I think, 1%, 2% of the cost of the kilogram of green hydrogen. Now, is it now for tomorrow? Not sure for tomorrow, but if the technology evolves as expected, as it happened in other sectors. In the solar sector, for example, we have witnessed in the last 20 years how the prices got reduced 80% from 2008 to now in terms of the photovoltaic panels prices, but also in terms of the price of electricity from solar, for example. So we use a different kind of financial mechanism like feed-in tariff, etc., which lead to very competitive prices of electricity from solar. We are talking about 1 cent or 2 cents per kilowatt hour. So very, very competitive, very competitive prices. So again, I come back to the green hydrogen issue. So obviously, now we are talking about prices around $5 to $10 per kilogram. Some studies are saying that we can even have $2 now. I'm not sure. But the idea is how can we in 5 years reach probably $1.5 by 2030. At that time, definitely, we will be ready to embrace this era of green hydrogen economy. And the other factor also that I need to mention that obviously we have all the components of the success of this economy if the technology evolves, as I said. The proximity from the European market. So the European market is very demanding of the green hydrogen and derivative in the next decade. We have already quite good infrastructure. We have already the gas pipeline connection with Europe that could be eventually used or part of it for the green hydrogen exportation. And also we have good infrastructure in terms of ports, so we can use eventually liquid hydrogen for exportation. And obviously we need also to prepare the local market and the local demand, obviously for different kind of uses, as I mentioned earlier, to decarbonize our economic sector. So again, both solutions, green hydrogen and agrivoltaic, are very promising. Agrivoltaic is already there. We need to encourage SMEs and companies and prepare some incentives at the government level, at the local banks to support young entrepreneurs, SMEs, etc., to deploy such solutions. At the same time, green hydrogen, so we are ready. We have the roadmap. We have the green hydrogen offer that was presented by Khalid in his presentation, and we are ready. So let's see how can we push this also while supporting R&D efforts like done by Erizin and UMCSP and other players in Morocco. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have reached to the last point or the last moment of this wonderful session. We were talking about, renewable energies and sustainable energy in a world of and regions of food insecurity, water insecurity, and we were able to see that there are good examples from many parts in the world, and also especially from Morocco. I was very glad to hear many good examples happening here in Morocco. But the words that I am very happy to hear here, the availability, the accessibility, the affordability, the profitability of what we are on this transition. So it is not a difficult thing, but we are definitely, if we want to achieve the next approach and we have in mind that energy has the solutions, I think we can make a lot. Without partner, we can have, okay. I'm getting a bonus now. That if we have 2 questions, that's the maximum I can get. But before I give the floor, and please prepare yourself, come closer, please. I can also say that, we need to have more partnerships and collaboration and dialogue between the different actors. This will make, solution much more easy to be achieved. Please go ahead. Do we have a mic here? Moving mic? Can you come? Come. Who's the next one? Who else wants to reflect? Okay, we have one there. Shukran. Please introduce yourself and your question.
Merci pour l'audience. Je suis ravi d'être nouveau. Alors, je suis Saad Hafi, chef service environnement au niveau de la région de l'Oriental. La thématique de Nexus, eau, énergie, sécurité et environnement, elle est très pertinente, elle est d'actualité. Et c'est très important de réussir ce chantier parce que c'est un chantier d'actualité de notre royaume. Alors, ma question, c'est par rapport à la première question adressée à monsieur le représentant de l'année. Donc, vous avez donc évoqué l'étude relative au diagnostic actuel de l'état de pompage solaire. Personnellement, je suis un petit peu inquiet parce qu'il faut utiliser le pompage solaire, mais avec beaucoup de précautions. Je ne sais pas si l'étude a prévenu l'impact des pompages solaires sur le niveau des différentes nappes phréatiques qu'on a, surtout que notre royaume, donc il vit dans une situation de rareté de l'eau. On a dépassé le stress hydrique. Et c'est important. Donc je crois, ma question c'est, quelles sont les mesures qui sont entreprises par votre département, par votre agence, pour contrôler donc, ces pompages excessifs de la nappe? C'est très important. Car on sait que dans les zones littorales, le pompage solaire, il peut provoquer l'intrusion marine, ce qui va provoquer la salinisation des récoltes, ce qui va provoquer la salinisation des sols, donc il faut l'utiliser, mais avec précaution. Je crois que réussir le Nexus, c'est important dans ce domaine. Ma deuxième question, c'est par rapport aux représentants de l'Erizin. Je crois l'importance donc de l'hydrogène vert est très important, en particulier dans la production des fuels synthétiques. C'est un grand chantier que vous menez avec succès. Je ne sais pas où sont arrivés les résultats, parce que le Maroc peut être leader même dans les fuels synthétiques, en particulier qui résonnent. Donc je sais que vous menez une étude au niveau de 4 zones au niveau du Maroc, en particulier notre région de l'Oriental. J'aimerais bien avoir que, donc, où sont donc, les derniers résultats. La dernière fois, j'ai pas mal de recommandations, j'ai les rédigées, donc je pourrais donc la mettre entre votre main, donc, monsieur le directeur, et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Thank you. 2 points. Well, the second one and the last one there. The last, yeah, madame, mademoiselle, madame. At the end there, yeah, madame. There. Madame. Yes. Our speakers, be ready just to make a comment. I know that the first question is a very common question, but let's go for the second.
Bonjour tout le monde, donc c'est Boulmer Mohamed du Conseil régional de Beni Mellal Khnifra. Donc on pense que c'est le moment, donc on parle du Nexus, le Nexus n'est qu'un outil. Donc je pense que c'est le moment qu'on a 3 stratégies différentes et indépendantes. C'est la stratégie de transition énergétique juste Et également, on a la stratégie Green Generation. Et également, on a les deux stratégies de l'eau. Ils sont totalement indépendantes et l'une ne se réfère de l'autre. Est-ce que ce n'est pas le moment de proposer juste une seule stratégie qui regroupe les trois secteurs? Et merci.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor in the same order of the questions. Dr. Makawi, please go ahead. Try to be just, very short, and then you can have also to continue the discussion during the coffee breaks and lunch.
D'accord. Donc, justement, l'étude, elle a mis en évidence une chose, c'est que les installations, ils sont surdimensionnées. Effectivement, une installation photovoltaïque qui est bien dimensionnée, il n'y a pas de risque, il n'y a pas d'impact sur la nappe phréatique. Je m'explique. En utilisant soit le gasoil, soit le butane, vous avez la possibilité de pomper 24 sur 24. Alors avec le solaire, vous n'avez pas la possibilité de pomper que 8 heures par jour. Donc la nappe n'a pas d'impact, sauf si l'installation est surdimensionnée, et chose qui a été démontrée par l'étude effectivement, parce que les fournisseurs, ils minimisent le risque et ils surdimensionnent les installations photovoltaïques. Voilà.
Thank you very much.
Merci pour votre question et merci de rappeler le rôle que jouent les fuels synthétiques, mais pas seulement. Nous, on aime parler de power to X, et X peut être n'importe quelle molécule, on aime les appeler les molécules vertes. Alors, on a priorisé l'ammoniac vert, parce qu'on a notre grand partenaire OCP et M6P qui nous soutient dans ce sens, mais les fuels synthétiques sont aussi un sujet sur lequel on va travailler, qui est priorisé en second, après l'ammoniac vert. Il y a aussi un effort à faire avec nos compatriotes européens qui considèrent que le carbone, qui est un intrant nécessaire pour la réalisation de ces molécules vertes, doit être d'une source verte biogénique. Malheureusement, le carbone biogénique, on n'en dispose pas au Maroc de façon en quantité nécessaire. Donc il y a encore un travail de lobbying à faire avec nos amis européens pour accepter le carbone d'autres sources, maybe d'industries qui polluent, pour pouvoir l'utiliser dans les fuels synthétiques. Voilà.
Thank you very much. Who would like to respond to the last point?
Well, I'm not supposed to respond obviously to this question. Probably the government representative may respond better than me, but I just want to, to say that I agree totally with you. I mean, we need more coordination between the different sectoral policies. Definitely for the next future destination plans, for example, we need to coordinate to plan which production would be for drinking, which production would be for agriculture, which production would be for green hydrogen and derivatives. So definitely this needs to be done at the level of planning to make sure that we are responding to the needs of every sector. But I know definitely Morocco is somehow a good example in Africa in terms of coordination between the ministries, but definitely maybe in the future strategy we'll have this same strategy. But now I think there are elements of interconnection between the different policies of agriculture policy, the green hydrogen roadmap, and also the policies of energy transition and the environmental policies as well.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think this group of wonderful and distinguished panelists, we need a big hand from you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We were very pleased to have all of the audience here. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. And now we will have a photo session, photo family. Are we ready to take the photo family? And then I give the floor to our moderator. And thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much to Mr. Ahmed Adli. Thank you very much to all the speakers. It was very interesting to hear everything about this topic. Family picture for our speakers. Before moving on and see what is the next topic. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. شكرا جزيلا لكل المتبخرين اللي كانوا حاضرين معنا. طبعا سنتعرف على الموضوع القادم. فقط للتذكير فعلى مستوى مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي كاين هناك بث مباشر لكل هذه النقاشات، ونقول لكم كذلك تلقاو صور وفيديوهات متعلقه بالحدث. Donc il y a un live streaming au niveau des réseaux sociaux. Vous pouvez aussi trouver des informations et bien sûr des photos et des vidéos concernant cet événement. We are streaming live So if you want to say to your friends, they can follow all the discussions.